Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. It is time for the latest meta deck that has hit the scene, and we are going to be covering it here today. That is, of course, going to be none other than Superheavy Samurai. This deck, you've probably already seen it on ladder. If I'd have to guess, you've probably already seen this deck on ladder, even though we are not too far into the selection pack release. That is because this is slated to be one of the most powerful decks going into this new meta after this pack release. Superheavy Samurai is an archetype that's been around for quite a while. Well, in Master Duel anyway. It's been around for the entirety of Master Duel's existence, but the reason it hasn't seen play up until this point is because almost all of its support up to this point has not really been super great, although there are a couple of notable exceptions from the previous iterations of support. But let's start actually by talking about the new cards that came into the game and how they have just shot this deck's power level up through the roof. One of the main cards that's going to contribute to this power level increase is going to be Superheavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, or I've kind of just been taken to calling it the Yuya Pendulum Monster because, fun fact, this card's design is based off of, well, Yuya, the protagonist from Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc V. It's got a somewhat similar outfit, it's got his goggles, most notably, so that's pretty cool. But this card has two extremely powerful effects. Both its Pendulum and Monster effect are actually just ridiculous. Its Pendulum effect states that if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can place a Superheavy Samurai Pendulum monster from your deck, except another copy of this card, in your other Pendulum zone, and then you special summon this card. You can only use this effect once per turn, and then the monster effect says if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard one monster, special summon a Superheavy Samurai monster from your hand or deck in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except for Superheavy Samurai monsters. If this card is used as secret material and added to your extract face up, you can place it in your Pendulum scale. So, wow. Wowie, wow, wow, wow. That is insane. I don't think I need to explain why these effects are super broken. You basically have both a search and a summon, not only for itself, but also a summon from the deck, too. You do have to be mindful that the summon off the effect will lock you into Superheavy Samurai monsters, so just make sure that if you're comboing, that you summon all of your non-Superheavy Samurais before you activate the Wakaushi effect. As far as the other Pendulum scale you're going to be setting, well, that'll be another one of the new cards released. It's going to be Superheavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei. Level 8 Pendulum scale 1 Machine Earth, 1000 attack, 3500 defense. If you control a Superheavy Samurai monster, you can add one Superheavy Samurai Soul monster from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Superheavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei once per turn. It's also got a monster effect that's not relevant at all because we're not playing Superheavy Samurai Big Benkei. This is Monk Big Benkei. Big Benkei is its own separate monster, but we're not playing it, so yeah, we're not worried about this effect at all. We're mainly placing this off of the other Pendulum scale, and then we get to add a Superheavy Samurai Soul monster. Now, the Superheavy Samurai Soul monsters are going to be the ones that are kind of like the weapons or the armor, so to speak. If it looks like it equips to something, that's going to be the souls. So that's going to mainly be the Soulpiercer, the Soulgaia, I think this one is. Yeah, Soulgaia, and then this one is Soulpeacemaker, right? Yes, Soulpeacemaker. So, let's see. Oh, one of the other new cards before we talk about some of those Superheavy Samurai Soul cards is going to be the Motorbike. Superheavy Samurai Motorbike is a level 2 machine tuner with 800 attack, 1200 defense. If you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you'll probably see a running theme among these cards. You can discard this card and a Superheavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand, except Superheavy Samurai Motorbike. You can only use this effect once per turn. Once per turn, you can target a machine monster you control, increase its level by 2. So, just a straight up Rhoda for the Superheavy Samurai archetype, including, of course, the very, very powerful Yuya Pendulum scale here. Also worth noting, the on-field effect might look irrelevant, but it's not at all. It actually does come up very much for a lot of our combos. Well, at least for some of our combo lines. Oh, speaking of combos, I think I am planning on making the combo guide its own video that'll probably come out, if not tomorrow, in the next couple of days. I don't know, though, because the first game that I'm going to show off in this video is pretty much us just doing our full turn 1 combo uninterrupted. But to be fair, there are alternate lines if you're not running all the stuff that I have in my build here, as well as if you open, weird hands, I guess. There's that, too. To be fair, though, I will also say this. I definitely want more practice before I make a combo guide. So Yeah, definitely let me know in the comments if you want one. If I see like overwhelmingly, yes, 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 please, then I'll absolutely make sure to get it out like as quickly as I can. But I'm probably gonna make it either way. It's just a matter of like when I'm gonna do it, basically. But like I said, the first game in this video will show off this deck's full turn 1 combo all the same. Okay, so those are, I think, all the new main deck monsters, right? As far as the extra deck goes, we are playing a copy of the new level 12 Synchro, but like I mentioned in my pack opening video, from what I can tell, this card is not required. You do not have to have this card in order to build the boards that we're going to be building with this deck. However, I do think that the Brave Masuraro, which is, funnily enough, like Gongenzaka, you know, looks just like him. This card is good, though. It's got 4K defense, can attack with its defense points. And moreover, if your opponent activates a spell or a trap card or effect, you get to draw until you have 3 cards in hand. Soft once per turn, for whatever that's worth, if you somehow manage to turbo out like a bunch of copies of this card. Although it's not draw 3, it's draw until you have 3. So it's not even like, you know, you're not going to get like a whole ton of draws on your opponent's turn unless you like draw 3 hand traps and then use them and then do it again. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a bad card. I have in the extra deck. I haven't really summoned it yet, but it's not a bad option, and it's very on theme, so of course we'll be keeping it in. Also worth noting, this is generic, and like, as far as generic level 12 synchros go, this is not awful. I mean, of course, you know, True King Calamity is a level 12 synchro that sees much more play, or at least will, with certain future releases, but if you're looking for just generic level 12 synchro options that have like totally generic materials, I don't think this card is that bad, honestly. Okay, so now that we've talked about all of the new cards, let's go over some of the older ones and what makes them so good in this deck. Particularly, I want to talk about Superheavy Samurai Soulpiercer. This is, no pun intended actually at all, the heart and soul of this deck. Even beyond all the new stuff that's come out, I think this is probably one of, if not the most broken cards in this deck. So, and this is one of the older pieces of support. You can target a Super Heavy Samurai monster you control, equip this monster from your hand or field to that target. If it attacks the defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Piercing is so ridiculously good. Like, you have no idea. This card is game break. No, I'm not kidding. I'm kidding, rather. I am kidding. That is not why this card is broken. It's this other effect here. If this card is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add 1 Super Heavy Samurai monster from your deck to your hand, except Super Heavy Samurai Soulpiercer. Wow. Period. That's it. That's the effect. That's ridiculous. So, it doesn't matter if this card is equipped in a spell trap zone, if it's in a monster zone, if it gets destroyed, if it gets used as a material for a link summon or a synchro summon. If it's just on the field and goes to the graveyard, you get a Super Heavy Samurai search. And you might notice that there's a distinct phrase that is missing from this card. Once per turn is not anywhere on this card. Not even a soft once per turn, not that it would really matter, but yeah, this is not a once per turn effect. That means that as many times as you can send this from the field to the graveyard, you get Super Heavy Samurai searches, and go figure, the more monsters you search, the easier it is to recur this and then send it to the graveyard again. It's really ridiculous. You can use this search upwards of like 4 times in a turn while you combo. Probably even more than that, actually. I haven't even really been counting. But this card is just stupid. It's really, really dumb. Also, this card was made in like 2017, I think. Like, by then, they definitely knew that this kind of effect should be once per turn. But because Super Heavy Samurai was just awful, like abysmally bad back then, nobody really bothered, I guess, to put a clause on it. But now here we are in 2023, this deck is cracked, and we are absolutely needing that once per turn clause on this card. It is actually exceptionally dumb that it's not on there, but hey, I don't make the game, I just play it. Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow is a newer piece of Legacy support, but predates this pack. It's also not a UR, it's only a super rare, which is very, very cool. Another very, very good piece of Legacy support is a Link one. Using any Super Heavy Samurai monster. Note that it cannot be used as a link material, but while you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you take no battle damage for attacks involving this card. Also, if you have no spell or trap cards in your graveyard, you can discard a monster, then target a Super Heavy Samurai monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone this card points to in defensive position. So, just keep that in mind when you're using this card. It is obviously an extremely good effect, but note that, 1, you gotta keep that linked zone open. If that linked zone is not open, you're not gonna be able to use this effect. So if you're wondering why you can't use the effect, that's probably it. 2, don't forget about the first sentence of this card. We can do a little bit of link climbing in this deck, but not with the Scarecrow. This card can never be used as a link material. It's not even like Spright Sprint or Spright Elf that's just, you know, unable to be used as a material the turn it's summoned. No, this card can never ever be used as a link material. So do make sure you are keeping that in mind. But as far as like the other older super heavy samurai support goes, because this is a question I've been asked already, and it's, you know, definitely a question worth asking. It's like, do you need any of the older URs for this deck? And the answer is no. You don't need any of the URs that have come out previously. Like, none of these, frankly, situational synchro monsters. Also, the new level 5 Sword Master Musashi. Well, this card is synchro summon to get a target machine monster in the graveyard into your hand. Also, if you have a spell or trap card in the graveyard, you can normal summon or special summon a monster with the same for the rest of the turn. Can attack while it's in defense mode, apply damage calc. You don't need this card. I think this card is a UR because it's generic. Even its effect, you know, it only cares about adding machines back, and it only cares about spell and trap cards. Like, this is one of the few super heavy samurai monsters where you can actually do the effect, even if you have spell or trap cards in the graveyard. But yeah, this card is not needed. It's not that good for the deck. Also, one other card I want to talk about that's not in here, that's also not good for the deck, is Sekka's Light. Don't play this card. Do not play this card in Super Heavy Samurai. I've seen people talk about it. I've had people ask about it. Don't do it. Don't play this card. While this card, at a surface glance, might seem like it fits just fine with the deck, after all, it also cares about not having spell or trap cards in the graveyard, and although it is a spell card that puts itself in the graveyard, you can also banish it via its own effect. And I believe you can only use each effect of Sekka's Light. Yeah, so each effect means that you can, in fact, do both effects on the same turn. So Hex, what's the problem with Sekka's Light then? If it gets itself out of the graveyard, there's no problem, right? Well, there is. Read this clause here. For the rest of this duel, after you activate this card, you cannot activate spell or trap cards or effects except Sekka's Light. Guess what very, very important card in this deck counts as a spell card half the time? Yeah, so definitely do not play Sekka's Light. Again, it might seem like it has synergy at a glance, but it is a total anti-synergy card for this deck. And in fact, if you do activate a Sekka's Light, you will not be able to use your Broken Pendulum monsters for the rest of the whole duel. So definitely don't do that. So that's like a basic overall, I guess, sort of primer about how the deck is played. Oh, I guess a couple of other things that we can cover here. As far as other URs that you would need for like the main deck in particular, you do want a Therion King Regulus. This card is very, very good. Some other off-meta stuff that we're playing does include, as far as URs go, the Artifact Scythe. You do not have to play Artifact Scythe in this deck. However, as part of the one card turn one combo that I'm going to show you, we set up a Scythe lock. So I think we definitely play it if you've got it. Again, you do not have to have it. You do not need to play Scythe in order to experience success with this deck, in my opinion. However, I think Scythe is probably just optimal, given how easy it is to set up here. We're playing the Artifact Dagda to the same extent there. Other linked monsters you might not recognize that are not super heavy samurais are Ancient Gear Ballista. We are playing this card to specifically add, where is it, the Ancient Gearbox from our deck to the hand. When Ancient Gearbox is added from the deck to the hand, you can also then add the Infinitrack Tunneller from your deck to your hand. And this card is a very, very easy to set up sort of Pot of Avarice type of effect, where basically the idea is like, we can go into the Ballista, Ballista adds Box, Box adds the Tunneler, and then when you Pendulum Summon later in the turn, you summon out both of these monsters, use them as materials, and then you can use Infinitrack Tunneller to not only recycle a lot of your really important materials, but also get a couple of extra draws on top of that. That's also, by the way, part of the same one card turn one combo that I'm going to show you here. There is also, you might not recognize off the art alone, the Qliphort Genius. This card is used for its last effect. When two monsters are special summoned at the same time to the zones this card points to, you can add a level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand. So that is how we are going to be adding the Regulus for our turn 1 combo, is using the Qliphort Genius. We're also playing Merrymaker and Sargus. You can do this line in order to potentially add the Regulus or go into a Zeus as well. I'm actually kind of thinking about dropping this line though and playing like Baguska and maybe another Link monster instead. Something, I don't know. At the same time, having access to Zeus is pretty good. I don't know. I could see it either way. I think I definitely need more testing, no matter what. Oh, you do need one pre-existing Super Heavy Samurai Synchro monster, but don't worry, it's the rare. It is the Ninja Sarutobi, so yeah. We are going to use this to end up popping our artifact scythe, though, so this is important to have if you are specifically scythe blocking. Okay, I think that is finally everything I wanted to cover in the sort of primer or breakdown section, the profile section here. So, also, I want to throw this out here because I know people are going to say, Lex, you said you would never ever play Gamma again. I still don't like this card. I still think it's dumb, but I'm not going to let that get in the way of unoptimal, or rather, I'm not going to let it get in the way of optimal deck building. We are definitely still playing Gamma here, but because I know someone's going to leave a comment like that, but anyway. Let's break this list down card by card, and then we'll take a look at some of the games we have. We are on 1 PSY-Frame Driver, 3 Droll and Lockbird, 2 Superheavy Samurai Soulpeacemaker, 1 Superheavy Samurai Stealthy, 3 Maxx, 2 PSY-Framegear Gamma, 3 Superheavy Samurai Motorbike, 1 Ash Blossom and a Joyous Sprig, 3 Ghost Belle and Haunted Mansion, 1 Ancient Gear Box, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Scales, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Soulpiercer, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Wagon, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Soulgaia, 1 Artifact Scythe, 1 Infinitrack Tunneller, 1 Therion King Regulus, 1 Jizukiru, the Star Destroying Kaiju, 1 Nibiru, the Primal Being, 3 Super Heavy Samurai Prodigy Wakaushi, right? Yeah, Wakaushi. And finally, 2 Super Heavy Samurai Monk Big Benkei. And that is going to go ahead and do it for the main deck. For the extra deck, we are on 1 PSY-Framelord Omega, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Ninja, I just said the card's name, Sarutobi, there it is. 1 Accel Synchro, Stardust Dragon, 1 Baronne de Fleur, 1 Super Heavy Samurai Brave, Masuraro. I know I butchered that. I'm sorry about that. 1 Springans Merrymaker, 1 Gigantic Champion Sargus, 1 Divine Arsenal AA-ZEUS Sky Thunder, 2 Super Heavy Samurai Scarecrow, 1 Qliphort Genius, 1 Ancient Gear Ballista, 1 Artifact Dagda, 1 Spright Elf, and then finally 1 Appaloosa Bow of the Goddess. That's going to do it for our list. Let's go ahead and see these games here. So as I mentioned in the profile, our first duel is going to be our turn 1 combo demonstration. Our opponent is going to be on Ice Jade Tearlament, but a lot of what our opponent does is not going to be the most relevant here. So the cool thing about this deck is that not only is it a 1-card combo, you have 12 total starters in the deck. Motorbike, we play 3 of this, is a starter. Wagon, which we play 3 of, is a starter. The Yuya Pendulum Scale, the Prodigy, I immediately forget the name if I'm not looking at it. That's a starter that we play 3 of, and Soulpiercer is also a 1-card starter that we play 3 of. Here we're going to end up starting with the Motorbike, so I'm going to activate the Motorbike effect to discard it and add Prodigy... What is it? Wakaushi, here we go. Wakaushi sets up the Big Benkei, and then summons itself. Big Benkei is going to add the Soulpiercer. We then normal summon Super Heavy Samurai Soulpiercer. Yeah, that usage rate is going to change real quick here. In order to go for the Scarecrow. Scarecrow will then, the Soulpiercer will then add to the Soulpeacemaker. Scarecrow then discards 1 card, doesn't matter what it is, in order to summon back that Soulpiercer. Now here my opponent's going to throw out a Havness in response to the Scarecrow effect. However, you might notice that I did not activate Maxx. 2 reasons I didn't activate Maxx here. 1, well actually 3 reasons overall. 1, I don't think my opponent is going to get more than 1 summon on this turn, so I don't think it's really worth using Maxx to only get 1 draw in this scenario specifically. 2 reasons, these are the follow-up reasons, why I don't think they're going to get too many summons here. 1 is that they would have to mill another tier name, like one of the Shirens, which is like very, very hard to do in a 35-card deck. And even if they do, I have a Ghost Belle to stop the play anyway, so. And yeah, here they milled Tidal, Perlamino, and Ash Blossom, so it's like, whatever, I don't care. Anyway, now we go into the Accel Synchro Stardust with those 2 monsters on the board. We get to activate all 3 of these effects here. You want to chain block with the Wakaushi at the end because that's the one that's least likely, I think, to be responded to. Bringing back the Motorbike with the Accel Synchro Stardust, adding a second Wakaushi. You do need to add that. Now we're going to sync these 2 for Baronne de Fleur. Very nice. We have our Omni set up here. Now we're going to, that Soulpeacemaker we added, we're going to use that on the Scarecrow in order to summon these Scales. Super Heavy Samurai Scales is going to bring back the Soulpiercer. We can then link those 2 monsters into our Ancient Gear Ballista. Another way you can add the Ancient Gear box if you don't want to use Ballista is Gear Gigant X, which is a rank 4. The Gear Gigant might be a little bit more flexible because it can add any, is it level 4 lower machine or Earth machine? The thing is though, it's a UR. Not only is it a UR, but also overlaying for it in this situation will not proc the Soulpiercer because then the Soulpiercer is not going from the field to the graveyard. So, but anyway, this is the line that we were talking about earlier with the Ballista, by the way, in the profile, where we add the Ancient Gear box and then the Tunneller as well. We already had the Stealthy in our hand. Normally we would search that earlier, but we already had it in hand, so we can just summon it here. And then we're going to link those two into the Qliphort Genius. Now we finally get to do our Pendulum Summon. We're going to Pendulum Summon not only the second Wakaushi, but also the Ancient Gearbox and the Infinitrack Tunneller. Those 3 cards that we added is what we're going to Pendulum Summon. Also, again, you want to make sure that you are summoning into the Qliphort Genius's scales, or into the zones here, rather, with your Pendulum Summon, because then you can activate the Genius effect to add the Regulus, which is going to be another Omni Negate for our board here. Not only is it going to be another Omni Negate, but it can even equip the Soulpiercer, which we can set up with the Baron here. But before we do that, I'm going to set up my Scythe Lock by linking into the artifact Dagda. Now we can use Baron's effect, popping the Soulpiercer. This will also proc the Dagda to set our artifact Scythe. Alright, Baron's gonna pop Soulpiercer. Soulpiercer effect activates to add the Soulgaia. Now we can summon Soulgaia, or whether we equip it and then we summon it by its own effect. Now we're gonna link Dagda and one of our monsters, our box in particular, for Spright Elf. Just make sure you don't get rid of the tuner, mostly. Elf gets to bring back the Motorbike, and like I said, Motorbike's effect to bump up its level is relevant here. We're going to do so and then sync for 8. And we're going to hand rip too. This is a really just disgusting combo. We're going to hand rip with the PSY Framelord Omega. We took a random Ice Shade monster there. Now we can lock ourselves into Superheavy Samurais with the Wakaushi. By the way, of course, we summoned yet another Soulpiercer from our deck, so we're going to get yet another search here. Motorbike for the follow-up plays. Oh, and we can't forget the Infinitrack Tunneller. Now, not only do we get to put back a bunch of those resources, we get 2 extra draws here. So this is our 1-card combo line that has 12 1-card starters in this deck. It'll end you on Elf, pointing to the Baron, as well as the Superheavy Samurai Sarutobi. This is also how we're going to pop this Scythe on our opponent's turn. Therion King Regulus, by the way, does not need to be equipped in order to Omni Negate, so that is still a live Omni Negate. So 1-2 Omnis, extra deck lock. We got a search for a follow-up turn. Oh, and then of course we also got 2 extra draws. It's just disgusting. It's just a very disgusting combo line. And we still have a fully set up Pendulum Scale on our board as well. So yeah, draw phase, I'm going to pop the Artifact Scythe. That's going to summon itself, and yeah. Ice Shade Tier Limit is definitely a deck that I would say typically needs its extra. Opponent is going to summon not just 1, but 2 Gamma Seals. So I guess I missed a couple of draws off Maxx. Oh no. As they move to battle phase, I'll bring back the Ballista. They battle over said Ballista as well as the Spright Elf. But I definitely do not require those monsters in order to win the game out from here. In fact, all I'm really going to end up needing is just like, well, my Omega back and then like 1 more. I don't even need 1 more body here, really. But I'll go ahead and Pendulum Summon out the Wakaushi for my extra deck anyway. Why not? Oh yeah, the Synchro is one of those ones that can battle in defense mode, and it uses its defense points to battle too, which is neat. So there you have it. That is what a typical / ideal going first game with this deck looks like. Don't worry, I'm exactly as disgusted as you are. Particularly Soulpiercer not being once per turn. Wow, that is a huge oversight. Even like. And you could say, like, oh, well, they made the card back when the first wave of support when it was all bad. And it's like, well, yeah, but Soulpiercer was definitely around when the good cards came out. It's like, they knew what they were doing. But anyway, there is that game. We, of course, have a few more to show off here. They are going to be a little bit more interactive. So let's check those out here. All right, our next opponent is going to be on Monadium, another deck I am extremely eager to delve into and start working on here. We're going to be going second. Now, one thing that you've probably heard about this deck is that it's very, very weak to Droll and Lockbird, and this is very true. Superheavy Samurai is definitely weak to Droll. I mean, hell, we just talked about how much we search with Soulpiercer, but I wanted to demonstrate a game in which we play under a Droll and Lockbird, so that's what this game is going to be. Opponent is going to start off with the Calarium for the Rimheart searching Meek, and you'll notice that I threw out the Maxx after the Meek was added. I held my toggle to on for this. You definitely want to make sure that you do this because Monadium Meek, the effect to special summon itself, does not start a chain link. It just happens. It's one of those kinds of summons. So if you want to get draws off of it, you got to make sure you're firing it off. To be fair, I could have waited until my opponent special summoned the Meek and then Maxx'd. They probably would have just passed anyway, and then I would have had a chance to remove the Meek, and they wouldn't have had it as part of their hand. In fact, now that I actually say that out loud, that is definitely what I should have just done, but either way, we stop their plays, and we'll look at that. We have a Nibiru for the next turn as well. So, gonna start off with the Wakaushi here. Opponent's going to throw out a Maxx in response. Now, at this point, I'm planning on just comboing through the Maxx. It's typically what I do going second for a lot of decks anyway, and in this situation, this is going to be no exception. However, the opponent also threw out a Droll and Lockbird, and I think the only situation in which this was correct was if they drew exactly Droll and Lockbird off of their one Maxx draw. Which, to be fair, at that point, I don't super fault them for throwing out the Droll here. Although, also, the Droll, like, this deck does a lot of searching. I wonder if, and I wouldn't fault my opponent for not doing this, because obviously Superheavy Samurai just came out in Master Duel and they might not know. And I don't even know if this is optimal, but if you're in that situation where you've Maxx'd a Superheavy Samurai deck and then you also have a Droll and Lockbird, I'm not saying this is always right, but I'm speculating it might even be right to not Droll right away and get... This is going to be really hand-dependent at this point, but if you need another live card to make plays for the follow-up turn, I think don't even Droll right away. Just get a couple more draws and then Droll later. Because again, this deck does so much searching that you'll probably screw them over even if you wait a little bit. But to be fair, especially on turn 2 like this, the more you wait, the more likely they are to be able to just kill you. So here I am going to pull out the Motorbike from my deck in order to be able to set that up. And grab the Saratobi. Now remember, because I did activate the Wakaushi effect, we are not able to go into the Accel Synchro Stardust. In fact, I think if I remember correctly, that's what I was trying to do. I think that's why I pulled out the Motorbike, because I was like, oh, I can go do Accel Stardust. And then it's like, oh wait, yep, this locks you into Super Heavy Samurai summons. So... yep, no Accel Stardust here, but to be fair, this is not a terrible setup here. We get to pop the Calarium with the Saratobi effect, which is one of the reasons why I was fine making it here, instead of the Accel Synchro Stardust. And also, this card is actually uniquely really good against Monadium, because it can pop the field spells when they activate, and field spells, if they get destroyed before they can resolve, don't actually resolve. So, even though this card does not say negate against this deck, against field spells, it actually does kind of negate. But anyway, I can get rid of their Calarium, battle over the Rimheart, and just pass over them. We know they have a Meek in hand and 4 of their cards, but I think, yeah, they just concede here. So, I'm not going to pretend like this was the strongest board ever to make under Droll and Lockbird. Like, obviously, Droll and Lock very much hampered us here. There is no doubt about that. However, just because you get Droll doesn't mean it's an auto loss. I think a lot of people treat getting hit with like a Droll or a C as an auto loss, and a lot of people will even, in my experience online, are just concede as soon as I resolve one of those 2 cards. But you shouldn't. You really shouldn't. If your goal is to not only climb, but also like learn and improve, part of that is playing through difficult situations and not just conceding the second a difficult situation comes up. So yeah, I think that there is definitely some merit. It's also why, it's one of the reasons why, you know, quote-unquote loses to Droll is such a non-phrase to me, or such a non-constructive phrase, because, like, it's the same when people say, oh, whenever they play X card, you can never beat it. It's like, okay, well, are you trying? Or do you just concede whenever that card gets dropped? You'd be surprised, or maybe not, how often the answer is just the latter. But we still have 2 more games to show. Let's go into those here. Alright, wanted to show another going second game where we face a little bit of disruption. This time we're up against Fur Hire Runic Spright. And as I mentioned, yep, we're going to be taking the second turn here. So, all gas hand. Obviously, I would have liked some amount of disruption, but, you know, it is what it is. Opponent's going to lead with the Fountain and then go for the Flashing Fire, summoning the Hugin, the Runic Wings. Runic Fountain F will put back that one Flashing Fire to get a draw. Opponent's going to summon a Spright Carrot and then set 2. So, in the wake of the Spright Carrot, we have some choices. It's funny because you might think like, oh, Spright Carrot, that negates spell and trap cards. We're an all monster deck, that doesn't matter. Well, again, much like Sekka's Light, we do actually care about activating certain spell cards. So, here the nice thing is though, activating this from the hand as a pendulum scale is not once per turn. However, the effect is. So, opponent was very, very smart to wait here. I think a lot of people would have shotgunned the carrot as soon as I activated the Prodigy Wakaushi. And I did have at least one other game where I had an opponent who tried to destroy the who did destroy the Wakaushi, only for me to play one later in the turn and then use the effect. So if you're in a situation like this where you can negate and destroy the Wakaushi, definitely wait for it to actually activate its effect, because this deck can very, very easily just search another one later and set it up in the pendulum scale. Also want to give my opponent props for not destroying the Wakaushi here, because, again, it's not hard for this deck to just find another one. And again, if they destroy it, that puts it in my pendulum scale. I can activate another one. If I pendulum summon later in the turn, that might give me an extra body. I think my opponent's playing very cautiously around the Wakaushi, and I think that's very good of them. However, sorry to say, opponent, I do just have 2 Soulpiercers in hand. I'm going to normal summon the Samurai Wagon here and activate the effects to, well, you want to activate the effect to change the battle position, but then also, of course, use the other effect to change it from defense back to attack mode to get a search. Now, here, even if this gets negated by freezing curses, or if I get like Ash or something, that's 100% fine, because, again, I have not 1 but 2 Soulpiercers in hand. And, again, for some reason, nowhere on this card does it say once per turn at all. At all. Not even once. Not even to equip. Not even to equip. So I could just, if this gets negated, I can literally just jam both of these on here, link it off for the link one, and then get 2 searches. It's just so gross. Here my opponent's going to Flashing Fire, though. Then they concede. Oh no, my poor opponent. Yeah, so Flashing Fire destroys special summoned monsters, and I had literally just normal summoned the super heavy Samurai Wagon. So the reason they were able to activate their Flashing Fire is because they can still summon a Runic monster from the extra deck, which is the only effect they could activate, and why they conceded. I think that was probably still an early concede. I don't know, that's the thing about this deck so far. I mean, it's day 1, of course, so maybe people just don't know how to play against it, but I'm kind of hard-pressed to find these difficult situations they have to play through. I really wanted to play this game out. I really, really wanted to, but yeah. Even getting the turn 1 games has been very hard, honestly. And not that I necessarily blame people, I guess, but I don't know. Just conceding the second your opponent activates a Wakaushi, it's okay, are you just going to concede every single time you see this deck ever? Or are you going to, at some point, try to learn how to play through it? It's I don't know. But maybe that's just me. We do have one more game to show off. Let us go into that. And for our final duel, we are up against Zodiac. Zodiac. Oh, I should look to see if they were on Terror Top and Invoker. I don't think they are, though. I just looked at the list. I'm pretty sure I didn't see it. So we're going second yet again here, and holy going second hands, look at this one. Although the opponent is going to lead with a D-Shifter. D-Shifter is another card that very, very much hurts this deck. I have been shifted a couple of times, and I'm going to level with you. I haven't tried to play through it once, because this deck is very, very graveyard reliant. I guess to be fair, maybe I should try. Here I'm going to ultimately end up passing. Well, here's the other thing, too. If I had a, more, what's the word I'm looking for? Balanced opening hand, as in if I had even one more extender, I might have tried to play under Shifter anyway, just to see what I could do. But, look at my hand. I am not at all incentivized to actually play under Shifter here. Also, I'm normally not a fan of playing like one random Kaiju, but this one is very, very searchable in this deck, so I think it's fine to play it. But yeah, I'm just going to pass right back to my opponent in this situation. And sure enough, they set one and passed right back to me. So I'm like, okay. A couple of back rows to play through. I'm not scared of their hand at all because of both Ash Blossom and Gamma. I'm going to activate the Wakaushi. Opponent's going to Solemn Judgment it. Okay. That is definitely not the response I was expecting, but it is one that is happening. So, sure. We have the Motorbike, so we can follow it up with that. Opponent's going to Ash Blossom. Here I am going to toss out the Gamma in response, naturally. The opponent's got a Solemn Warning this time. 2 Solemns. Yeah, the opponent's on 3 of each Judgment and Warning, as well as 2 anti-spell fragments. I dare say my opponent is on an anti-Superheavy Samurai deck. Which, to be fair, exactly today, this is not the worst idea in the world, but, like, it's, generally speaking, a pretty bad idea to go into ladder playing anti-exactly one deck. But, again, to be fair, at this point in time, just hours after release and everybody on this deck, here exactly, again, it's not the worst idea in the world. But I don't advise this, generally. I do not advise this. So, I'm going to try to Maxx in response to the Ram, the opponent finally on turn 7 showing us exactly what deck they're playing. But they have an Ash Blossom, not too surprising, given how dead their hand has been up to this point. Oh yeah, also we tried to go with the Maxx beatdown. Because at that point I was like, you know what? I have 2 Maxx's in hand, and the opponent is just not summoning anything. Maxx by itself threatens 2-turn lethal, but it's actually 3 if I go attack directly with Maxx 1 turn, attack directly with Maxx 2 turns, and then the 3rd turn, normal summon the other C, and then attack with both. But that's also assuming neither my opponent and I were doing anything else for the remainder of the duel, which up to that point was not the worst assumption to make. But yeah, here they get to just go for a big Zeus. I do have the Kaiju, so I'm just like, please, just give me a super heavy samurai monster. Although, to be fair, their face down card is probably just the anti-spell fragrance. Ah, yes, and then I forgot about this part too. The newly limited Kaiser Coliseum is also going to come down and screw me over. So, and I know there's probably at least one person out there watching who's like, well, Hex, I mean, you're saying this deck isn't good to play, but you're just getting wrecked so hard by it. How could it not be good? Yes, they are playing an anti-Super Heavy Samurai deck. I am playing Super Heavy Samurai, so I am getting wrecked by them. However, there are far more other decks out there than Super Heavy Samurai. Hell, even in this playtesting session, I played against, like, maybe 2 or 3 mirror matches. It really wasn't that many. And also, I will say, in all fairness, Kaiser Coliseum, Solemn Warning, Solemn Judgment, these cards are good against other decks. But the anti-spell fragrance in particular is just like, I've never been a fan of main decking side deck cards, even in especially in best of 1 ladder. I say even in best of 1 ladder, I mean especially in best of 1 ladder. I'm actually planning on covering that idea in a video. I've talked about that before, but best of 1 deck building and all that fun stuff. And here at this point, because, you know, I thought to myself, they are putting multiple monsters on the board, and I'm probably just not just dead, but also at the same time, like, I know they're probably going to make it F0, and even if I do top deck something, I just don't think I'm going to be able to play through it at all. So I ultimately decided to just concede here. But yeah, that's going to go ahead and do it for our initial deck profile for Super Heavy Samurai. Like I said, I'm going to keep practicing at this deck, and I'm going to get that combo guide out as soon as possible. Again, if you really, really, really want to see that, please let me know in the comment section. I'm going to do it either way, but if I see a lot of support for it, I will make an extra effort to make sure that goes out, like, tomorrow. So, yeah, thank you, everybody, for watching. Super duper appreciate you watching it all the way to the end here. Let us go ahead and move now to the outro. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. That means a lot to me. It's also a great way to support the channel, so thank you very much in that way as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel in other ways, like the very special patrons that I am thanking here, you can do so by checking out some of the links in the description. One of those goes to the Patreon, where you can join these fine folk and support the channel that way. I do post daily content over on Patreon, so you do get something for supporting there. And if you're interested, I also have a coaching tier option as well. Details again will be on Patreon in the link below. Also in the description linked below is my Twitch page where I stream a few times a week. You can go ahead and check that out, follow or subscribe over there if you ever want to catch me live. You'll also find my second YouTube channel if you feel like subscribing over there to watch some of the Twitch VODs as well as some additional non-Yu-Gi-Oh related content that I make over there. Again, any of those links you want to check out is all a great way of supporting. But again, even if you don't do that, just watching was also a fantastic way to support. And once again, I have to thank you so very much. But in any case, this is Hexlex. I'm going to be signing out, and I'm hoping you have a fantastic day.